So you can't tell just using, what I would call the grandmother test. Would your grandmother understand this? Well, unless you're selling to grandmothers, it doesn't matter. If I'm selling a specialized thing to specialized buyers, it just needs to resonate with them. It's okay if it doesn't resonate with your grandmother. The most common way that tech companies successfully position is they find an underserved subsegment of the market, and then they attempt to dominate that subsegment and then push out from there.
What are the most interesting mistakes you've seen people make when it comes to positioning?
Oh, so many things. The first mistake is
I want to start with the basics. What is positioning?
It's interesting. I'm a positioning expert. And when I started out as a consultant being a positioning expert, the worst part about that is nobody really knows what positioning is. They think they do. So people will say, positioning, that's just like messaging, isn't it? And I'm like, actually, no, it's not quite that. Or they'll say, positioning is like a tagline. We're coming up with a tagline. And I'm like, oh gosh, no, there's a lot of things that we do that aren't tagline related. My personal pet peeve is when people talk about brand positioning. That drives me nuts. There is positioning and there is branding. Those two things are actually really separate. So most of the things that we confuse with positioning are actually things we do with positioning once we're done with it. But positioning is an input. So if you think about it this way, if everything we do in marketing and sales is the house, positioning is the foundation upon which the house is built. So my definition of positioning goes like this. Positioning defines how your product is the best in the world at delivering something, some value that a well-defined set of customers cares a lot about. Now, that's a bit of a mouthful. A lot of the folks that I work with are not marketing people. They're CEOs of tech companies, so they don't have a background in this stuff. So I think the best way to think about it is it's like context setting for products. It's the context I position my product in such that customers kind of have an idea, like, what is this thing? What's it all about? Why should I care? It's a starting point for a conversation with a customer.
Can you give me an example?
One of the things that really stuck out to me, I was always trying to explain to tech company CEOs with a tech company example. And whenever I did that, the tech company CEOs would say, well, that's a database that, and we're not like a database. So I thought I need some examples that have nothing to do with technology. They're really simple. So I was trying to come up with an example, and I was on my way to work and I went to Tim Hortons coffee shop in Canada. So I'm standing in line and the guy in front of me is ordering breakfast. It's 8 a.m. And he orders this thing, which is a double chocolate salted caramel muffin. And I was like, that is some genius marketing stuff right there. So I've got a piece of cake. It is double chocolate caramel cake. But if I put it in the muffin format and I call it a muffin, everything about that is different. The whole context around it is different. It is socially acceptable to order double chocolate caramel, whatever, if you say it's a muffin, because I'm now comparing it differently. So if I said it was cake, what's cake? Cake competes with other things that are like dessert. It competes with ice cream and tiramisu and other things you would order for dessert. What does cake cost? Well, if in a restaurant, it's $10, $15. Where do I get it? I might go to a bakery, but I get it at a restaurant too. When I'm talking about a muffin, well, muffin's totally different. A muffin's breakfast. It competes with a bagel and a donut. What do I charge for a muffin? I charge $1, $2 for a muffin. The whole context around it is different. The product, however, is the same. Like that thing that you're eating is a piece of cake, whether it's in cake form or muffin form. So I can choose to position it as a muffin. It's the same product, but the assumptions about that, the competitors are different. Your value is different. The assumptions that customers have about that product are different because I've placed it in a different context.